Okay, good luck from Yerushalayim. Uh, we're up to 8 lines up on your test Amid base. We saw Shabbos. We saw a machlokes between Rebbe and Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Reb Elazar, Reb Shimon, excuse me, Reb Shimon, regarding if there's a din of lina on the Kiddush Yadayim Reglayim. We spoke at lina is that something that's left out overnight, right? And therefore, let's say you wash your hands to do the avodah, and now you work the whole day, and nighttime passes. Now, did he have to go back? Let's say he never left the Beis Hamikdash and he wants to continue the avodah. Does he have to go ahead and wash his hands again? Because what? The night has passed. Now there's a dinalina on his hands. Like Rebbe, Einachanami, he has to. Like Rebbe Elazar, Reb Shimon, no. He worked 10 days straight. The question is, what's the source? Okay, so that's where we're up to. 8 lines up on your test on the base. Now the pasuk says, "Bevoyam el oil mayed." When they come, they should wash their hands. Right, the pasuk says they should wash their hands when bevoyam el oil mayed yirchatzu mayim v'lo yamusu. And mashma, they do the avodah, they're going to die. Or bigishtam, or when they can come close, elam izbeach l'shares, to do the avodah, l'hakter ishel Hashem. So the two words we're going to focus on are the words bigishtam and bivoam. The first word bivoam and the word bigishtam. Okay, so 8 lines up. My time with the Rebbe that Lina is Moil, and in fact that what the Moilis, that in fact that you will be over on Lina if your hands become Lina and you have to wash them again. It says Begishtam. It's mashma Begishtam. In the morning they put a new maracha. So Begishtam, when you go to the new maracha, you have to wash your hands. So obviously the night had passed, there's a new maracha, and Begishtam, you have to go ahead and wash your hands. My time there was from Shimon that you don't have to. It says the Lashon of this says B'vayam, and he didn't leave when they come in, but he never left. He's been there working the whole night. So as long as he's in there, he doesn't have to do it. So Rebbe's source is Begishtam, mashma, when he comes close in the morning after a new hamaracha, and Rebbe Elazar Reb Shimon's source is B'vayam. What does Rebbe do with the source of Rebbe Elazar Reb Shimon? Ikasib Begishtam, v'leikasib B'vayam. If we just say Begishtam and not B'vayam, havamina al kol gisha v'gisha. I would think that what? Al kol gisha v'gisha, even during the day, they'd have to go ahead and wash their hands. So let's say they wash their hands in the morning, and now they go ahead and come to the Mizbeach again, they'd have to wash their hands. They have to go ahead and wash again. So B'vayam tells me no. Begishtam, in the morning is when they do maracha, they have to do it. But B'vayam, as long as they don't leave, they don't have to do it again. That's according to Rabbi. Right? The idach. Nami haksiv b'gishtam. What is Rabbi Elazar of Shulem with Rebbe's raya b'gishtam, which is mashma, you have to do it in the morning. So ikasiv b'voyam. Then when you come in and never leave, v'leikasiv b'gishtam havamina afilu abirei konis. I would say that what even without doing the avodah, right? If I would say b'gishtam is mashma going doing the avodah. So if you just said b'voyam, that b'gishtam. So enachinami b'voyam, as long as you're in there, you don't have to wash your hands the next morning. But it has to say b'gishtam to tell me that what that. Right? That it has to be hagosha for avodah and not one and not stam birei konis for doing anything. For the Gemara, how can you think have a havamina kasal? I feel birei konis. A birei konis aksiv l'shares. The pasuk said before shbegishtem el mizbeach l'shares. So obviously you can't have a havamina that you would have to go ahead and on a birei konis that you'd have to wash your hands because it says before is the sharis. So Hajukash L'Tuchtei, according to Rebbe Elazar Shimon, what does he do with the begishtam of Rebbe? Ela begishtam miboyle lefrebach b'Yaakov. He needs it for a site to get in. He needs it for a whole different din. Ram Rav Yaakov Yaakov. Hakol moedim b'kiddush sheni kishu lavush mekadesh. Okay, background. The Kohen Gadol, as we mentioned yesterday, does 5 tefillas on Yom Kippur. He does 5 tefillas, and each time he changes 5 tefillas. 5 times he changes his clothing. And every time he changes his clothing, he has to go ahead and do Kiddush Reglayim, and he has to be Toibel. Now the question is, does he take off his clothing first and then do Kiddush Reglayim, then or not? So Rebbe holds by the first one. Rebbe Meir is of the opinion he goes ahead and takes off his clothing and then washes. Everyone's moida when he comes out of the mikveh, he doesn't wash and then put on his clothing. Everyone's moida, he first puts on his clothing and then he washes it. That's what I need it for the second Kiddush Reglayim of each one of the Chamesh Tefillos. Okay, says that's the Amar of Achav Yaakov. Hakol moedim b'kiddush sheni, the second kiddush reglayim of each of the 5 tefillos. Kashu lavush mekadesh. He does kiddush after he's lavush, as opposed to the first one. You have machlokes whether he does it whether he's without clothing or with clothing. Damakra oy begishtam mishein mechusa elagisha b'vad. Right. The only ones mechusa coming close to do the avoida. Yatzazeh, it would be excluded some mechusa levisha v'kisha. So if you're going to tell me that he's going to do the kiddush before he does the gets dressed, then it would be you have a step in between the hagasha for avoida. You'd have the levisha. So therefore, it has to be levisha first, then he washes his hand, and then hagasha. That's what. According to Rabbi Shimon, it comes to teach me. Bottom line is, guys, this is the machlokes for, and it's going to escort us to the rest of the daf and different shilas. Rabbi says that the lina my eles, that there's a din of lina, and therefore every morning, even if he had been working the whole night, burning the chalavim or whatever they were doing, he'd have to wash his hands again in the morning. And according to Rabbi Shimon, he can do 10 days straight as long as he doesn't leave, go to sleep, and doesn't have Pesach Hadas, you don't have a problem. Okay, a bunch of different questions over here. Lahak the Ishalamli. What is the and just the end of the pasuk? It says Lahak the Ishal Hashem. Why does he have to say that? Why do you have? Why do you even farish the Haktarah of the Mizbeach that said Hagosh Mizbeach? What coming doing any avoid? Why dafka Haktarah? So it says the Gemara. Ma'udetema. I would have thought Hani Mili avoida the Me'akevas Kapara. I would have think that when does he need Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim? Only it's avoida that if he wouldn't do it, the kapara, the carbon would not be a good carbon. I will avoid the loy ma'akva. But avoid it's not ma'akiv. Rashi brings adding fire to the mizbeach. Rashi says, "Ma'odetema hani mili debinin kiddush shachris, but avoid the ma'akeves kapara kagoin dam ukamitza. I will call haktaris emurim, the burning of emurim loy ma'akva." Sorry, I don't mean adding fire. I will call haktara emurim, burning because if you don't burn the emurim, the carbon's still good, as we mentioned already many times. It's all the avoid of the dam that makes the kapara okay. So once the dam was done ready, the carbon's good carbon. So I might think that for kiddush dying for, let's say the kohen has to go ahead and burn the emurim, right? I think he doesn't have to do kiddush dying reglayim because that's an avoided that would not stop the kapara. Kamash malon that the words of hakter isha to go ahead and burn emurim, you would have to go ahead and do kiddush dying reglayim. And now back to the machlokes. Kiyas Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came up married to Yisrael, Rabbi Yochanan, he mentioned in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan the following Shaila. Boy Ilfa, the Shaila Ilfa of the kind of same Ilfa Rabbi Yochanan, they left him, Rabbi Yochanan, they were both leaving to go to work. Rabbi Yochanan heard the Baskol, Ilfa didn't, and then the great Ilfa. Boy Ilfa. The Dibri Oimer Ein Lina Mayelis B'Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim. It's according to Rabbi Elazar Shimon that there's no din of Lina. Make kiyar mahu sheyivsalo. The waters of the kiyar. What's the din? Do they become what? They become lino or not? Now the kiyar was the kli in the base of the mikdash that was used to go for the kanim to go ahead and wash their hands. Now it was in a kli shares, which is important, and the shiloh is if you leave it out overnight. If you leave it out overnight, like Rabbi Shimon, would the water itself become puzzle? After all, you're telling me Kiddush Raglayim, the water that was Mekadesh the hands was no problem, that the hands not become. What about the water itself? The water itself in the Kiyah. Ain lino else because me make Kiyah Mausha Yivslo. Me, I mean, do we say Hani Lemai? What's the whole purpose of the Kiyah? The Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim Gufayu Loi Puzzle. They don't become puzzle lina. Possible lina, the hands itself. In other words, the goal of the kiyar is to be makadesh the hands, and the hands themselves do not go ahead and become pasalina like Rabbi Shimon. So the nail of the shaila is maybe the water itself doesn't become. Idil makivin the kiddush lu b'klishares nifslu, since it got intrinsic kedushas aguf because it was in the klishares, it does become pasalina. It's a great shaila. So again, it's studying with the shaila. Like Rabbi Shimon, that the hands, if they wash them, and as long as you didn't go ahead and go to sleep and leave everything, you just kept on working, even though the day changed, it does not go ahead and become lina. What about the water itself? After all, the purpose of the water is to mekadesh the hands, and the hands themselves don't become, so the svara lends itself that the water also shouldn't become. Or no, do we say that water was in a kli shares? Since the water was in a kli shares, it has intrinsic kedushas aguf, and therefore what? It's left out overnight, you'd have psalina. When Ravin came up, Rabbi Yirmiyah, he said in the name of Rabbi, Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Yochanan, he said in the name of Rami, name Rabbi Yochanan, Had the Pashid Ilfa, Kamachlukas Bezu, Kamachlukas Bezu. In other words, it's the same Machlukas. like Rebbe, who says that what that lina mayel is kedushalayim reglayim, he would hold that what that in the kiyar also to make kiyar would be possible. And look, the Reb Shimon who says that what that ain't lina mayeles, he would hold also indeed that what that that the hands do the water in the kiyar do not become possible. It's the same thing. So Amalafon Reb Yitzchak Bar Bisna, Rebbe, Ata Oima came. Did you really say so, that the same machlokes? Elahachi Amar of Asi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is what he said, Mishmei the Ilfa. Not like you reported that it's the same machlokes. Kiyar shalei shaku mibe'erev. The kiyar that was not immersed in the water. Remember, there was a kiyar. Remember, there was a muchni made for the kiyar. There was an axle, as we're going to see, that immersed it. Right? Mekadesh menela boidel slaila ulamacha ena mekadesh. Right? That you weren't shakeya mi'erev. Right? You did not go ahead and immerse this. You didn't go ahead wide and immerse. Well, let's say you went ahead and you failed to go ahead and immerse the kiyar into the mikvah that was next to it, that was lowered by the smuchni. You didn't do it. What's the din? And what's the din? What did he say? Is mekadesh min avoid the laila. You went ahead, you did kiddush regalayim for the avoid of the night. Ulamacher ein mekadesh, and the next day you didn't. Ravina ba. What does that mean? Lamacher ein mekadesh. The light sarich lekiddush. Lamacher what? Because you don't have to do it the next day. Because why? It's because Allah is like it was a b'shemin. Idilma ifslu belina, or maybe what it became a psalina. V'lei pashidlan, and you weren't pashid the shaila. In other words, if you didn't immerse it, what's the din? So you're saying it's the same machlokes, but he's Ilfis still being machlokes. What's the din? Umarka pashid le mivshat, and you're being pashid the shaila. So it's not so pashid. It's not pashid. The shaila is not pashid yet. So back to the shaila. What's the din of the Mekir? Is the Mekir subject to the same machlokes Rebbe and Rebbe Lezer Shimon? Like Rebbe would become possible, or like Rebbe Shimon not. Tashma. Ben Kotin, the Gemara in Yuma tells us, the Ben Kotin also shneim also dad lakiyar. He made 12 spigots. That had been two. He made another 12. There's the amount of kahanim that can be Isaac in the korban tamid. So simultaneously they were able to go ahead and be Mekadesh Yad Raglov. And Afhu Isa, and he indeed made Muchni Lakiyar. He made an axle for the kiyar to lower it into the water. Shlayei Meimav Nisalim Balina. Now, B'chayra, you see that there is a psulina. Of course, you had to go ahead and immerse it. Now, the question is, who is the Tan of that brisa? If it's like Rebbe, that's no chiddush. If it's like Rebbe Shimon, then we could be paisha the Shiloh. Says the Gemara. My love, Rebbe Lazar, Rebbe Shimon. It's Rebbe Lazar Shimon that requires immersion, and since we require immersion, we see there's a difference between lina of kiddush reglayim that Rebbe Lazar Shimon says it's not a problem. Like the water of the kiyah, it is a problem. Memela we can push the shiloh. Says Loy, Rebbe it's Rebbe, and you can't be push the shiloh. Fred the Gemara of the ratio Rebbe Lazar Shimon, Sefer Nami Rebbe Lazar Shimon. When the ratio of that Mishnah is Rebbe Lazar Shimon, the Sefer is also. Now we're discussing the avoid of Yom Kippur and the par that the Kohen would shecht, the par of Aaron, that Aaron would shecht, that the Kohen Gadol would shecht, exactly where it was situated. From the place it was situated, we're going to ascertain that it must be Loit Elazar Reb Shimon. And since that part of the basis of the Mishnah is Loit Elazar Reb Shimon, the Sefer also that required it to be immersed is Loit Elazar Reb Shimon, and you can be Paisha the Shaila. The Gemara is going to answer that no, I can say the Reish is according to Rebbe as well, and if the Reish is according to Rebbe, the Sefer is also according to Rebbe, and it can't be Paisha the Shaila. That's going to be the format of the Gemara. Now, what's the Reisha? Bolo Yesel Parai, he would come to his par, upar hoya oimed bein ulam lemizbeach, and the par was standing between the ulam and the mizbeach. Okay, that's where exactly it was, and that's what we need, guys. The par is between the ulam and the mizbeach. Now we're going to need a three-way machlokes over here. A three-way machlokes is exactly where exactly the north is. Okay, so here's a nice picture book. Okay, according to Reb Yossi, shechita of any kosher kedoshim has to be in the north. So here you have, this is the mizbeach. It's situated, according to this day, it's situated totally in front of the opening of the ulam, and it was the north. This is Yerech HaMizbeach. Over here, you see this area. This is exactly where it had to be. If you shechted it over here, it's no good. That's the shita of Reb Lazar Reb Shimon. That's the shita of Reb Yossi. There's the opinion of Yossi Reb Yehuda. Here's what we need. This is the opinion of Rebbe Lazar. Notice Rebbe Lazar Reb Shimon Meisif Af ben ulam mizbeach. Not only this area, not only if it's situated in this area, but even the area of the ulam and the mizbeach. Good. That's according to. And now there's a third shita. That's the shita of Rebbe. Rebbe. Rebbe says even this area, not only the north, not only ben ulam and the mizbeach. Here's the ulam and this is the mizbeach, but even the area where the Ezus Yisrael and Ezus Kanim. In other words, the going eastward over here. Good. So it says, where was it's geschachten? It was geschachten over here. So it was geschachten over here. It's mashma. It's according to the shita of Rebbe Laza, Reb Shimon, right? Who said that this area is kasha. It can't be according to Rebbe Yossi, Rebbe Yehuda, because he holds only this area. Now, indeed, it could be according to Rebbe, and the Gemara will go ahead and deal with that. Okay? So the Gemara right now is going to suggest that just like that part of the Mishnah, the area is according to Rebbe Laza, Reb Shimon, who adin the, I know my nose is like, who adin the latter part of the muchni being is also called as a shimon, and therefore you could be paisha the shaila that the water of the kiyar is different than what than the hands. Okay, let's see it inside. So now, so the par it was oimei ben ul mizbeach roishay ledaron. Its head was to the south. The upon of Lamayrav, it's faced to the east. Vakoinamim mizrach upon of Lamayrav. Man shamid ame ben ul mizbeach tzafan. Who's the one who says that ben ul mizbeach is considered north leinin kasher kadashim? It's Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, the Tanya. Ezehu ezehu tzafin mikir mizbeach tzvaini from the north part of Mizbeach at Kaisel Hazaret Tzvaini, Ukenega called Mizbeach Kuloi Tzaf and Divir Yehuda. That was the first shita, just opposite the Mizbeach itself. Rabbi Shimon Moisef Af Ben Ulam Mizbeach. Rabbi Moisef Af Makam Trisas Raglei Kahanim Makam Trisas Raglei Yisrael, as we saw in the pictures, right? Aval Min Al Khalifa Isla Fnim. That's from the Khalifa in Fnim. That from this area. From this area inside this, guys, from this area over here, inside here, this is based on Chlifais, this will be puzzle. So that's the max you can go with this area. But anything beyond that would be puzzle. Again, why do we need? We only need one thing. We only need that the power was situated in the area. The power was situated in the area that Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon says is the area that's kosher for shechita. So now, so therefore the chayra, we have a raya now. Since the first part of the Mishnah is speaking like that the par was between ulam and mizbeach, and this latter part says the muchni was lower down. So since the first part between ulam and mizbeach is according to Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, so is the latter. And for the Gemara, the following. I'm going to illustrate it. And for the Gemara, it could be according to Rebbe also, because Rebbe indeed, Shitas Rebbe, is that not only this, but this. So the Gemara is going to ask, if it's according to Rebbe, why did you say Ben Ulam is Beach? You could have said over here also, that the Shechita could have taken place over here also. The Gemara is going to answer the following. You know why the Shechita didn't take place over here? Because it's very hard for the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol is going to do a lot of avodah. If the Shechita takes place over here, he's going to have to schlep the dam all the way into here. So now really he could have done it over here. He could have done it over here, like Rabbi Shimon. What's the reason he did it over here? So really it could be according to Rebbe. The reason we didn't mention Rebbe is because the reason why we mentioned over here, because we could have mentioned over here, like Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, Ben Ulam Mizbeach doesn't have to be Mamish Ben Ulam Mizbeach. This area is considered Ben Ulam the Mizbeach, this whole area. Why Dafka over here is because of the Chulsh of the Kohen Gadol, but Einachinami could have been Rebbe. The reason we didn't mention this area is because of the Chulsh of the Kohen Gadol. So you have no Raya. Be'emes, you have what? You have no Raya. Be'emes what? You have no Raya. Okay, so let's see it inside what we just told you. Says the Gemara now, Hashta. B'tizra Lazar Rebbe Shimon he, Olay Rebbe, Hashta Rebbe Ad Rebbe Yossi Rebbe Yehuda Meisif. Rebbe is Meisif on Rebbe Lazar Yehuda who says just the north. Ad Rebbe Lazar Shimon Lay Meisif, right? And the Chari is Meisif on him as well because he says Ben Ulam Mizbeach and Rebbe says even the east. Says Anan Hafi Kamarinan. Isal Kedaitek Rebbe. If you're going to say it's according to Rebbe, how you look with Makam Drisas Ragli Kahanim with Makam Drisas Ragli Yisrael. You could have put the power, the shechita all the way there in the east. My Rebbe Lezer Shimon, he look me mikir mizbeach tzfaini at kois lazar tzfaini. You can go ahead and you can go ahead and put it right over here. You can do it in this area over here. Why do you have to do it in this area over here? Ella, you know what you did in this area over here because Chol the Kohen Gadol. So in Achanami, it could have been according to Rebbe. And nonetheless, so once it's that part is according to Rebbe, you're not locked into saying the safe is according to Rebbe, Rebbe Lozer Shimon. So the safer could be according to Rebbe, and Memela the Muchni was lowered down. Rebbe holds that Lina is moiled by what? By the hands. Therefore, Lina is moiled what? By the Mekir. And the whole Shiloh of Mekir was like Rebbe Shimon. And the Raya you want to bring that they lowered the Muchni is no Raya, because the lowering of the Muchni could have been according to Rebbe, as proven from, as we just proved. So let's conclude the words. So the Shiloh was Rebbe Shimon, look me Mekir Misbech Tzvayni at Kais Lazara. Tzvayni elamai. Why do you put it dafka beinul mizbeach? The Kohen Gadol. We put it as close as possible to the door for the Kohen Gadol to make it easier because of his weakness in Shrislik day. So Hanami, it could be according to Rebbe, and the reason why I didn't mention Tris is Ragla Reglayim, which is the east, is Mishum Choshed Kohen Gadol. So Mela, we would not place it to Shaila regarding the Mekir. We weren't placed to Shaila. We have Machlokes what by hands. Rebbe says that Lina is moil. Rabbi Lezer Shimon says Lina is not moil, and therefore the Kohen will not have to wash his hands again. Regarding the Mekir, we were not pushed to the Shaila. New Shaila. Rabbi Yochanan, Kiddush Yoda v'Raglav, l'Trumas Hadeshen. Now the first avodah done every day was the Trumas Hadeshen. They go up and take the deshen, Machlokes, they took it from the Tapuach, or they took it from Namracha. They would come down and put it on the east of the southeast, and that's happened. They got immersed in the ground. That was Trumas Hadeshen. Now, do you have to go ahead and do Kiddush Yadayim for Trumas Hadeshen? So now, Rabbi Yochanan, Kiddush Yadayim Raglav l'Trumas Hadeshen l'Machar ein it tzarich l'Kadesh shekfa Kiddush mitchilas avoda. Since you already did it already, right? Then you don't have to do it again. That's what it says. Now, Laman ila Rebbe ha'amar pastelina. If it's according to Rebbe, it's possible. You can't do it. It doesn't help you. Of course, you have to do it. So after time you don't do it. And Idul Rosa of Shimon Hama ain't Sarch Lakadesh Afilim Mikan Asar Yomim. So Trumas Hadeshen, guys, was done. It was done what? Before. It was done before. It was still done at nighttime. It wasn't done in the morning. So here's the question: Like Rebbe, it doesn't help. L'chayra, you'd have to watch. You'd have to go ahead and do it again. And light Rebbe Lozer Shimon, you never have to do it. So what's going on over here? Amar Bai Loilam LeRebbe, Velina de Rabbanon he, and this Lina that we're discussing is the Rabbanon. What does that mean? The MS Lina's Kiddush Regalayim, the Regoizer that you have to do it, because if you don't do it, if you don't do it every single day, they may come a day you'll say the guy worked the whole night, and really he doesn't have to do it in the morning. But if he goes ahead and doesn't do it in the morning, he may come to not do it when he has to, and he's chayv misa. Again, if he worked the whole night, MS, there's no din lina on his hands, and really he should be able to go ahead and continue the avodah, like Elazar Shimon. What's Rebbe worried about? Rebbe's worried about the hechatimsa, where a kohen who the night before or a week before worked through the night, came the morning and continued working. So the kohen who gets up in the morning and says, "1 second, I didn't wash the last time, so I don't have to wash now." So to avoid that, any morning you had to do it. To avoid that, any morning you had to do it. So Mamela, this makes sense. Here you are, you're doing Trumas Hadeshen, which is again, this is mamish a little bit before it's not morning yet, but it's a little bit before. The reason why you have to do it, even though even though Rebbe says that it's not going to help to do it in the night, right? The reason you do it is the Rabbanan. That little distance that's going to be, the 20 minutes, whatever it's going to be between the time of Trumas Hadeshen and actual day, we're not worried about the Gezerah. That claim's not going to make a mistake. He's going to make a mistake when you did it the day before and the whole night passed. Mashen came, where it's a little bit before, then a little before our lois, then you're not worried. That's a bias teretz, right? Amra by Loyal Rebbe, and why can Rebbe says it doesn't help until the next morning? No. Velina de Rabbanon, it's all Gezerah de Rabbanon. He, Umoida and Rebbe's Moida, the Mekairis Hagever from the time Machloikis, whether it's when the rooster crows or when the Veka would avek them, yeah, wake them up. The Ad Safra till the morning itself, Loy Pastalina. It's not, he's Moida now the small period of time. Geshmak Teretz. Rava Amaloilam Rebbe Elazar Rebbe Shimon. He, now I, L'chayra, according to him, you have to do avoida, you have to wash your hands. You don't have to wash your hands, you go straight through. No, he says, when don't you have to wash your hands? That if you did it during the day, at the beginning of an avoida. But if you did it at night, at the end of an avoida, then he's moida that you can have to wash in the morning. That's Rava's teretz. Loilam Rebbe Elazar Rebbe Shimon. He, for Rabbi Yochanan Dvarav, when did Rabbi Elazar see the words of Rabbi Elazar Rebbe Shimon that you don't have to wash your hands the next morning? Is B'tchilas Avoida, where you began the day before. For Loy B'Seif Avoida, but not when you began the night. The night here, you're beginning right the night before. Then he's moida. Then he'd be moida that you'd have to go ahead and wash your hands for this. Moida, you have to wash your hands. So it's either this Trumas Adeshin could be according to Rabbi or later Baya, or according to Rava, it could be according to Reb Shimon. He'd be moida since it's nighttime and you didn't do avoida from the night before. You just begin to do avoida now. You'd have to wash your hands. That's the machlekes. We're going to ask a kasha now in Rava. Mesidei. Ra'u achiv hakahanim. The kahanim would see the one who did Trumas Adeshin, sheyoyrei, that he would come down. Vehin ratzu, and they would run. Ubohu miharu, the kitchi yadayim ragleim min akiyar. As soon as they see him coming down, they would go ahead and wash the hands, run to wash the hands from the kiyar. The kahanim are coming down. He did Trumas Hadeshen. It's still not day. They're coming down, and what are they doing? They're washing the hands, the yadayim raglayim. That's what they're doing. Menakiyah, on middays. Bishleim ala Abaya, very good according to Abaya. The Muki law, Kirebi, who said the din of Trumas Hadeshen is like Rebbe, who Rebbe said in that little small window of time, we're not worried. Umoy the Rebbe, the Makaris, the Gerat Safale Postelina, Hamani, Rebbe. Then what? The Tana's Rebbe. It's great, right? Just like the one who did Trumas Hadesh and washes his hand before the day, so to all the Kahanim are washing the hands before the day because it's only that it's leaning the Rabbanon, it's Gzeri the Rabbanon, it's only a small period of time. El Rava, the Muki Lok Rebbe Elazar Reb Shimon, who said that Trumas Hadeshin is speaking about what? Like Elazar Reb Shimon, that who says that you have to wash your hands. The reason why you wash your hands then is because of what? Because of the beginning of Vaida. Al Rebbe, El Rabbi, the Muki Lok Reb Shimon, Aval Rebbe, like Rebbe, because I gave at Safra Postelina. But according to what? According to, he would say Rebbe would pass on that time because he's Zetzlein according to Rabbi Shimon. Hamoni, Rebbe, Pastelina. If it's Rebbe, then all these Kahanim that wash their hands, according to Rav, are apostle because Rebbe didn't match it. And he Rabbi of Shimon, Ha'amar, Afil Mikan Vasar Yomim in Etzarf L'Kadesh. They don't have to do Kiddush at all. In other words, the Havamina is that these guys who were doing it were working throughout the night. They were working throughout the night. They don't have to do it. The only one who had to do it was the one who did Trumas Hadeshen, because that was the what? That was the Avodah Salayla. So he's doing Avodah Salayla. Reb Elazar B'Shim is moida by Avodah Salayla that you have to wash your hands. But all the other ones were working through the night. Since they were working through the night, they don't have to do it at all. So we got a problem. We have this guy doing Trumas Hadeshen. We have every other kohen doing Kiddush Yadayim Reglayim. As a result, it's still nighttime. Loida Baya, it's great. Why? Because even though it's nighttime, it's that small little window, and that small little window, Rebbe wasn't going to with the Rabban, his Gezeri Rabbanan. But Loit was Reb Shimon, who says that only the reason why that particular kohen had to do it because it was the avoid the end of the beginning of an avoid and that he was Makadosh at night. Now all these other Kahanim who are working the night, why are they going ahead? They don't have to do it. They have a whole. They can continue working. So that's the kasha. Who is the Tana of Leit Rava of that brisa? And for the Gemara, I'll tell you what, it's Pasha Teretz. Not speaking about Kahanim working it the whole night. Speaking of new Kahanim are going to work in the first place. They're going to work. So Mela, they're going to work. It's not of course they have to Kiddush Yadayim Relayim. Says so Loilam Karebi Elazar of Shimon v'Hachamay what are we dealing with over here? The Kahanim Chadet. We're speaking about new Kahanim. Since it's speaking about new Kahanim, that what of course they have to do Kiddush Yadayim Relayim. Okay. So that seems to be the machloikis, the end of the machloikis between Elazar and Shimon until now, but we're still going to bring in shilas regarding of Kiddush Yadayim Reglayim in different scenarios. Good. Now, Iboilahu, the kohen washed his hands. Now Yitzia, he goes out of the Azara. He leaves the Azara. Mahu shetoil b'Kiddush Yadayim Reglayim. is it going to go ahead and passel his hands? In other words, you have to do Kiddush again. Imtim Sulaima now. Imtim Sulaima Lina loy pasla. If you're going to tell me Lina doesn't passel, like Rebbe Lazar Shimon, the loy parish, then what? Then he didn't leave. Then it's not a problem. Albeit tzia the parish asuchim mesach daita. So the reason why Lina that the reason why he can go continue working because he never left the Azara, and therefore he continue working. Aval yitzia the parish, let yitzia where he did leave the Azara, asuchi mesach daite. He had hesach hadas, and therefore what? Maybe he'd have to wash kiddush shadayim again, even like Rabbi Shimon. Idil makivin de biyode lachser, since it's different than the daytime, night going to day. Maybe over here he went out, but he can go back in, light, le mesach. Tashma, let's be pasha the shaila. So again, the shaila is kiddush leaving the azara. It does go ahead and require kiddush when you come in again or not. Tashma, kiddush yadav raglov. Person was makadosh yadav raglov v'nibu, and his hands became tamei from the tumas yadayim. His hands became tamei from tumas yadayim. Matbilin, right? He just put his hands in the mikvah. He puts his hands in the mikvah. Vein surf the kaddish. He doesn't have to put his hands. What? He doesn't have to do kiddush. Okay, this is not our shaila. Yatsu, if the hands go out, hariheim b'kedushasan, they still remain kodesh. So l'chayra, let's be paisha shaila that yatsu will not go ahead and require a new kiddush. It says, well, no, yatsu yadav like kami boilan. If his hands went out, it's not a shaila. Why? It's just his hands. Kikami boilan is yatsu kol gufa. If his whole body went out, maybe then he'd have to go ahead and do kiddush. What's the din? Tashma. Shalei rochatz yadayim raglayim. Mikadesh b'kli sharis b'bifnim, right? Let's say he didn't go from the kiyar. He can go ahead and use the kli sharis inside in the azar proper. Kiddush b'kli sharis b'chutz. This is what we need. If he's mikadesh b'kli sharis b'chutz, oy b'kli choil b'bifnim, or a non-kli sharis inside the azara, oy shetavel b'mei ma'oroi, it goes ahead and tavel in the mikvah. Ba'avid avidasa b'sula. In all these cases, avoid this b'sula. Now, the case of where he's mikadesh b'chutz. Right, Kaddish and Kli Sharis b'chutz. Time of the Kiddush b'charish b'chutz. The Kiddush took place outside. Since it took place outside, it's not Chal Kiddush because it was chutz Nazara, and therefore, what if he does the avoid? It's possible. Ha Kiddush b'fnim. What happens if he did the Kiddush in the right spot, where it could be Chal, which is inside the Azara, the Yatza, and then he went outside and came back in? I would surmise that avoidasa kshera. And therefore, we can be paished shayla that leaving the azara, as long as you did kiddush yadayim beforehand, you don't have to go ahead and redo it. You don't have to do it again. So let's be paished shayla again. Kiddush where you just did the kiddush outside in a klisharis, it's no good. Mashma if you did inside in a klisharis, even though you went outside, as long as you went back inside, it's good. You don't have to do kiddush. Says Gemara, that's not a good deal. Dilma kiddush b'klisharis b'chutz hechi dami. You know what it means? Kiddush klisharis b'chutz kegoin the afik yodav levar. He put his hands outside for kiddush. Aval yotza kol gufoy tiboylach. As the assumption is that he was mekadesh outside and then went inside, and therefore making a diak, but inside outside would be good. No, maybe he stuck his hands out, and therefore since the hands were in an area that wasn't roy for chalois of kedusha, again he's outside. Therefore, if he brings it back in, it doesn't make a difference. It's no good. But enachinami had there been kiddush inside and he went outside, right? That still remains a shaila. We don't know. So if this is speaking about kiddush yadav b'chutz, it's not negay the shaila of kol gufay, which was again that was what we said before in the previous shaila. Tashma, continuing to push the shaila. Yotza chuslam mechitzas chemes azar. The kohen works out. Im l'shois, right? If it's going out for an extended period of time, tayin tefillah, he would require a new tefillah. Im lefi shah, only a small period of time, tayin kiddush yadayim reglayim. So l'chayrik paisha shaila that leaving that zara would require kiddush yadayim reglayim. Amalei. So Rav Papat told Rav Zvid, hachab mayaskina ken shiyotza lehesach raglo v'lehafel mayim. He went to go ahead. He went to the bathroom. He went to go ahead and went to the bathroom, right? And therefore, if in certain cases, if he went out for a long period of time, there'd be a tefillah, and a shorter period of time, then what? Kiddush yadayim reglayim. A longer period of time would be defecation. Shorter period of time, but just to mash the mayim to urinate. For the Gemara, I don't need the. He went out. It says it openly. What does it say? Kol mesach raglov. Anyone who's mesach raglov, he defecates. Tayin tefillah. B'cholamata mayim, it urinates, tayin kiddush yadayim reglayim. So therefore, obviously, mechitzas chusma zara must be what he went out stamasay and went outside, and you see you need kiddush reglayim. Says we know tani v'hadim mefarish. We're speaking. That's the first part. Bryce. So the latter part is explaining the first part. You know when he went outside? He went outside to go to the bathroom, and the extent of time he spends out would require tefillah if he, right, if he did a defecation and urination would be type. If he just went out like this, we can't be pushing the shaila. Let's continue. Tashma, para. But in the case of paraduma, again, remember, paraduma was done where? It was done on haramishcha, it was done on harazesim. Good, it's not a carbon, it is kedushas bedek abayis, it's not a carbon, even though it's called mechatos, but it's done on harazesim. Now, para. Reb Chia bar Yosef Amar, mekadesh bekli shares, the kohen who did it would have to mekadesh bekli shares, bifnim, where? Inside. The yotza, and go out. So this is going to be the raya, the fact that what? That you can go out and still do it. Good. Rabbi Yochanan says, again, we're going to be the right from Rabbi Bar Yosef. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, afilu b'chutz. You can even go ahead and be mekadesh b'chutz. Afilu b'klichol. You don't need a klisharis. Afilu mekadesh shalcheres. Even an earthenware keli would also suffice. So what do you see? Like Rabbi Chia, that if a person would go out and he'd mekadesh inside and go outside, you wouldn't have a psul. So I'm a puppy, you have no raya. Shiny para choyel v'chol ma'aseh b'chutz like pasel bo yitzia. Since everything was done outside in Har Mishcha, when he was Magdish inside and went outside, there's no Psul Yaitza. Mashen came when the Avodah has to be done in the base of Migdash, Ken Zayin, that when he is Makadish and he goes out, it could be Pasul. Yihachi Lamali Makadish. So if everything's done outside, what did you gain? Says, Kain Avodah Bifnim. Right? You want to do Kain Avodah Bifnim. In other words, you want it to be as similar as possible to one inside. So, in other words, the Shaila of Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim, right? The shaila about whether he'd see apostles, in addition to is also a pasha. So in addition to the word mekiyar, it's but the machlokes is still totally at that. We want to pasha the shaila either. Okay. Well, have a good night, everybody. We'll see you Bez Hashem tomorrow.